Welcome to Starvation State Park, and this is in Utah. This is called the Beach Campground. It's where I've been for the past couple of nights, and one more night to go here. This is actually water and electric sites, and it's a beautiful place. And I'm going to turn this over to actually me
Hey there,
to
it's
share more.
Alan, and this is Starvation State Park. I'll step out of the way and pan a little bit. You can see where my campsite is. This is a beautiful and absolutely remote area. It's really something. Starvation State Park is, I think, the second state park I've stayed in Utah, and I love the names. The first one was Dead Horse Point State Park, and there was a name. There was a story behind that name, and this one apparently has a story too. According to Wikipedia, Starvation State Park, there are a number of legends. Probably the most likely is that in the early 20th century, some settlers here in this area starved, and it was during a particularly harsh winter. You're up at about 5,500 feet. There's a short growing season here. It's tough for people living in this area. And there's a storm rolling in. I can feel the wind kicking up, and I know that's going to be creating some wind noise here. So I'm going to go inside, and I'm going to continue my story inside with you, sharing the last couple of days and a little bit about this area that I think is really, really cool. So join me inside, and we'll take it from there. So we're back inside and out of the wind. Looks like it's going to rain fairly soon. There is a storm moving in. This is September 21st. I've been on the road about 2 weeks now, and I've stayed here, I think, 2 nights, and I've got 2 more nights to go. So I'm going to put a total of 4 nights in. Starvation State Park is an interesting place. It's about 4 miles away from the town of Duchesne, about 60 miles west of Vernal. And like I was mentioning, Starvation has an interesting history behind its naming. There is a post associated with this video, so if you click that, you'll be able to get over and get all the additional commentary on it, and I'll have a couple links where you'll be able to locate, things like the history of the area and all that kind of stuff. I stayed the first night. I'm going to try and get some video to you on Indian Bay. It's a primitive camping area. It's dry camping. I only stayed 1 night there because there was clouds rolling in on the second day, and I rely on solar power. I had my 100-watt solar power panel out on the first afternoon, and it did a great job. And I woke up in the morning and had something like 12.29 volts on the batteries directly on the terminal. I've now got a meter reader where I can get it directly to the terminal. And that was fine for me. 12.29 I think is a very healthy reading for early in the morning, where you've gone a full night without any power coming in on the batteries. I was draining the batteries using my inverter. The laptop and the phone were connected all afternoon, and the phone was connected all night and running part of the night with internet radio. So, there was a little bit of a draw against the batteries, and the batteries in the morning were just fine. The idiot lights on the batteries were something like 3 out of 4, so that was pretty good. Forgive me. So the first night at Indian Bay, like I say, there's some video I'll have for you. Right now, what you just saw me at outside is what's called Beach Campground. It's water and electric hookups. I think there's a sewer dump somewhere around here. In fact, I know it's back up on the hill. But it's a real nice camp area. The pads are paved and they're nice and flat. And I saw one reviewer on RV Park Reviews call it luxury camping at a state park price. It's $28 here. It was $15 over at Indian Bay. So I'm pretty impressed with what Utah does with their campgrounds. Phone access is pretty good, but as I pointed out in my post about Lucerne and the Flaming Gorge, Verizon is living off of other towers, so that if you have a Verizon phone, you better have the extended network able to you. Otherwise, you're going to get clobbered with usage fees. This particular park, as does Indian Bay, there are a lot of insects here. It's more than I had seen over in Luzerne. So for whatever reason, this area has got a lot of flies and gnats and no-see-ums and all other kinds of annoying things. But it is pretty close to the water. And forgive me, I'm looking at notes to make sure I cover all the points I want to share with you. It is close to the water, so kayaking here has been pretty good. Not too sure that I'm going to get too much more kayaking in today or tomorrow because we have a storm rolling in. It looks like it's tropical moisture, and they're looking at 1 to 2 inches of rain tonight. So that's like 10 to 20% of the annual rainfall here will occur tonight and tomorrow. I think they only get about 10 inches a year in this area. It's a high desert. You're up at around 5,500 feet. One of the next areas I'm going to go to is called Strawberry Reservoir. There's another interesting place I'm going to hit in between, and I'll have some video and commentary on those places. But Strawberry, I know, is up around 7,200 feet, and I believe tomorrow night they're expecting some snow. That will have melted by the time I get there, and I believe the days that I'll be in Strawberry Reservoir, afternoons will be in the low 60s, and overnight will be around freezing, so it'll be nice. Speaking of Vernal, Vernal is a nice town that I hit coming out of the Uintas, coming out of Lucerne Campground. Great place to spend a couple of nights. It's got some good restaurants. It's got a Starbucks. It's got a Smith's market, really well outfitted, a lot of fresh produce and such. I stayed at Fossil Valley RV Park. It's right in town, right across from the Smith's. Definitely better pricing than the KOA in town, always. Fossil Valley was about $38 with 10% off for Good Sam. The owner's a nice guy. On my last morning, on Monday morning, I wanted to get a haircut. And, serendipity happens a lot when you're traveling. It's just interesting. I went over to go get a haircut at a place called Mark's Old Town Barbershop. Turns out he shares the office with a chiropractor, a fellow named Jacob. And Jacob and I spoke for a couple of minutes, and I decided it had been a couple of weeks since I had an adjustment, so I'd have him give me an adjustment. So I would highly recommend Jacob as somebody that you want to connect with and I'll have his information on my post when you're in Vernal, if you are in chiropractic care and you want to get an adjustment. Mark, likewise, I'm pretty impressed with him as a barber. Spent a few minutes with him as he was cutting my hair. It was very reasonable. It was $15. And very nice guy. So I've got good feelings about Vernal and good things to say about town of Vernal and the people in it. When I left Vernal, I headed over to here to Starvation. And actually, the first person I encountered was the camp host, a fellow named Wayne, who's been here for 5 seasons, who offered to give me a ride around in his cart. And we took a look at where I am here, the beach campground. We took a look over at the primitive area, Indian Bay, and there are 2 other primitive areas, but they're even more remote. And I don't think I'd want to take this 38-foot behemoth over to the more remote areas. But they all share in common that there are no hookups. And where he showed me on Indian Bay, and I'll show you in the photos and hopefully some video, there's some pretty neat spot to park your unit and be close to the water. And for me, the kayaking is great. So that's about it. Thanks much for watching. I think that the video is continuing, so if it does continue, it's because you're going to see some footage of Indian Bay. And of course, you can click the link that I'm sure is above me or below me so that you can get over to the main post and see additional links, commentary, and anything else that I forgot to share here. All right, thank you.
So welcome to Indian Bay. It's the primitive camping area just inside of Starvation State Park. Instead of staying on the paved road to the right, where you go to the beach campground and to Mountain View Campground, which is a campground that's above the beach and overlooks the water, you're headed in towards the primitive area. It's a mix of dispersed camping and organized sites, but most of the sites are for tents or very small vehicles. During the season, this will handle as many as 75 vehicles here. I was the only one, as you see. And we're headed out towards a little peninsula where I was staying that I learned later is actually underwater during the late spring and early summer. until the water recedes. And this is a reservoir, there is a dam, and they let the water out. But it was a great spot. Again, it was a little buggy. It's about $15 a night. There are no picnic tables right at the spot, although there is that little kiosk that you passed by, which has a whole bunch of picnic tables there. So it's really kind of neat. Um, Thanks for watching, and definitely click the link to get over to my post, and you'll get some additional commentary there and some other odds and ends of interest. Thank you.